Okay,
Okay.
we're live, so the meeting is yours, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the May 6, 2021 Planning Commission meeting for the Charter Township of White Lake. I'd like to go ahead and start call the meeting to order. Secretary, can I have a roll call, please?
Steve Anderson.
Here, White Lake, Steve Anderson, White Lake.
Mary Carlock.
She's
Absent.
excused. Yeah.
Peter Maher.
Here, White Lake.
Matt Slicker.
Here, I'm in Commerce.
Mark Fine.
Here in White Lake.
Joe Seward.
Here in White Lake.
Scott Ruggles.
Here in White Lake.
Debbie DeHart.
Here, White Lake.
Rhonda Grubb. Here, White Lake.
Okay, thank you. Would you go ahead and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, commissioners. Okay, I was looking over the agenda. Is there anything that Sean, that we need to add to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, if all commissioners had an opportunity to review the agenda, could I get an approval or motion for approval?
Motion
Maher, motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. Do I get support?
Support.
Okay, could I have a roll call for, do you have a motion and approval? So can we go ahead and have a roll call vote?
Steve Anderson.
Yes?
Peter Maher.
Yes.
Matt Slicker.
Yes.
Mark Fine.
Yes.
Joe Seward.
Yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yes.
Debbie DeHart.
Yes.
Rhonda Grubb. Yes.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. We have got approval for the agenda. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of April the 15th, 2021. Commissioners, have you had a chance to review the minutes? If there are any adjustments or additions or corrections to the meeting, if not, I need support approval for the of the minutes.
Make a
Maher,
motion.
motion to approve.
Okay, and get support.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes and support. Can we have a roll call to review that?
Steve Anderson.
Yes.
Peter Maher.
Yes.
Matt Slicker.
Yes.
Mark Fine.
Yes.
Joe Seward.
Yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yes.
Debbie DeHart.
Yes.
Rhonda Grubb. Yes.
Okay, we have approval from the for the April 15th minutes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a call to the public. And what this is, for those that are listening, the call to the public are items that are not on the agenda. And anybody that is online that wants to go ahead and review something or communicate to the board, we'd like to be able to take this at that time. Brian, do we have any callers?
We have a couple callers. Press *9 if you would like to make a comment, and then state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
No hands raised at the moment. Press
Okay.
*9. Okay.
We'll be sure.
5205. If you could press *6 to unmute yourself and then say your name and address for the record. Go ahead, 5205. Press *6 on your keypad to unmute. There
Scott
you go.
Shepard, 6500 Cedar Island Road.
Okay. Mr. Shepherd, go ahead and let us know what your concern is.
Well, I don't really have a concern. I guess I'd like to hear the proposal yet for the lot, and maybe I jumped on too early, but I'd like to hear what they're proposing for the building of this property.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that. The situation is the call to the public right now is for something that is not on the agenda. That is on the agenda, and you will have an opportunity to hear both from the commissioners and also the applicant. And at that point in time, if when we have the call to the public, you have any questions, we can be able to address it. But if you,
Yes, sir.
if it's regarding that, we appreciate your time, and just stay on. Okay.
I'll do that. I apologize. Thank you.
No problem. Not a problem. Okay, caller number 9548. Do you have anything that is regarding the call to the public?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you for responding. I appreciate that. Okay. Okay. Well, if that's being all the case that we have as far as the call to the public, the next thing on the agenda is a public hearing that was posted for Stanford Holdings LLC rezoning. And the property as described is parcel number 12-29-476-006. It's a vacant parcel. It's located on the northwest corner of Bogey Lake and Cedar Island Road, consisting of approximately 10.3 acres. The request is for rezoning from AG, which is agricultural, to R1-A, which is single family residential. Applicant is Stanford Holding LLC, and the deed holders are also Stanford Holding LLC. Before we actually open up as far as for the public hearing, did you want, Mr. O'Neill, did you want to have any comments or anything with regard to it?
Sure. I wanted to just quickly hit a couple of the highlights on the McKenna letter that is in your packet and is also online. Mr. Anderson, you did a fine job of describing the request or the location of the request. This is a much larger parcel, and only 10.3 acres is being proposed for rezoning at this point. It's a 45-acre parcel, actually, that's currently zoned ag, and the request is to take the southerly strip of 10-acre strip of it and rezone it from ag, which is a 5-acre minimum, to R1A single family, which is a 1-acre lot minimum. The applicant's desire at this point, we always ask for their stated desire, though they're not bound to do it this way, is that they want to take 8 splits off of the property on Cedar Island Road and make 8 large acreage parcels in that area. And I'll show you a layout if you'd like to see it here shortly. A couple points I wanted to hit on were that the property is basically surrounded by similarly zoned property or property that might actually be more, I guess, more dense. R1C is across the street to the east. To the west is ag zone property. Let me look here. It's actually that's that ag zone property is that strip of land that is actually the ITC corridor. And then on the other side is the Cedar Meadows project, which is also zoned R1A single family. To the north, the use is commercial, but it's zoned ag. That's where the nursery is located. And then to the south, the property is zoned suburban farm, which is a 2-acre minimum. So all kind of similarly dense or similarly zoned for the most part. One of the biggest factors is generally the consistency with surrounding uses and zonings, and whether or not this meets the goals and the intent of the master plan. In this case, it does. So that is an important thing to point out. Additionally, the capability of the street system to safely and efficiently accommodate the expected traffic is a question. I don't believe that that's going to be an issue. We're only talking about 8 homes, but that ties into the rezoning traffic study that could be required. Generally, if it's consistent with the master plan, it's not required. In this case, it is consistent. Or if it involves a residential downzoning, that is not the case. It is a slight upzoning, but my recommendation is that the traffic study be waived because, again, we're only talking about 8 homes here on acreage parcels, and it seems to be a bit unnecessary, and that should be a part of your motion if you so choose, or if you see that you see it fit. And then finally, we worry about rezonings creating a spot zone I guess a zoning district that's completely incompatible with the surrounding areas, and that's a big issue. And in this case, it definitely does not create an unplanned rezoning. This property would not create an unplanned spot zone. So the recommendation is, subject to the waiver of the rezoning traffic study, that it be approved to go from ag to R1D, because number one, the requested R1A zoning district is consistent with the master plan and future land use map. Two, rezoning the parcel to R1A is compatible with the character of the surrounding area, as we've discussed. Three, rezoning the parcel to R1A will not result in a spot zoning, which I just mentioned. And then finally, this parcel is a reasonable module of land for single family residential development. Again, I know there are signs up on both Bogey Lake Road and Cedar Island, which caused a little bit of confusion, I think. The ordinance and state law requires that property that's being rezoned be posted. And in this case, the property has frontage on both roads, which is why they had to put two signs up. So there were quite a few folks that are on Bogey that were concerned that something was coming that was very intense and maybe right near them. And that's not the case, which is not to say that, down the road, a year or two, someone wouldn't come in and potentially request something more, I guess, more dense than R1A. And at that time, it would be a completely different application. It would have another public hearing, and there'd be a full site plan that would be associated with it. In this case, the site plan is not required. However, they have shown a survey. Let me get to my screen share here. Second. Let me zip to the bottom here. This is really a pretty good map. It makes it pretty clear to see. Here's Bogey Lake Road as it's labeled. Here's Cedar Island Road. As you can see, it's kind of stricken through with the border of the property. This thin red line shows the entire larger parcel, the entire parcel actually. This 10.3 acres is the area that is about 333 feet deep from Cedar Island Road that the applicant seeks to rezone. The rest, it remains one property for now until the applicant comes back, if the rezoning is successful, and then does the divisions. But, and hopefully I'm not going to make anybody seasick here. I can show you an exhibit that kind of depicts how he plans on splitting these lots. So I don't know if you can see these very well without it being a really super full screen, but this is that stretch of property. Here's Cedar Island Road. It's kind of at an angle. So up is actually east. So he plans on taking, these are the 8 lots he plans on taking off that frontage. And then this open space here, which will tie into the parent parcel, the larger parcel that I'll show you in a second. Again, that'll be his way in if he decides to have a second access point for a future neighborhood. But again, to use that, he would have to have road commission approval. He would have to have a traffic study. There's a whole lot of work that would have to be done. And just to be clear, that is not being requested today. The traffic study gives him the ability to potentially split these lots off through just a simple land division process. And, that, again, that area is this piece here. Now, north is up. So that area we talked about that would be for a future potential road would be kind of in this area here. And then the 8 lots would be right off of Cedar Island. So I hope the public understands. They may not have had all the information so readily available. It's been online and it's been in the packet of the Planning Commission, but if they didn't look it up, they might not have understood the request. And I think for most of the people who we spoke with on the phone, once we explained what the situation was, they felt more comfortable about it. Not to say everybody did, but it's a pretty straightforward request. If you have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer them. And I know Tom is here as representing the applicants group, and he's probably happy to answer any questions you may have as well.
Okay. Do we have anybody else that is going to give any other reports before we go to the applicant?
No, the only other thing that was mentioned that I should call out, Mike, Township Engineer Mike Lufkin is on. There was question about utilities, and in this case, these splits would all be, the homes on these splits would all be served by septic and well. They would not be on municipal water and sewer at this point. So there's no issue with utility capacity. And Mike, I don't know if you have anything else to say about that, but that was the other thing I want to touch on.
Yeah, Michael, if you have something, feel free to add at this time.
Yeah, I don't believe there's currently utilities on Cedar Island Road, so there is a plan to bring water main down Bogey Lake Road, but it's not in the ground yet.
Okay, okay. Well, I tell you what, Mr. O'Neill, why don't we go ahead and let the applicant get a brief little overview, and then we'll go back, and then we'll open up the public hearing so that any of the public can have any questions, and then the applicant can be able to address those. Because maybe the overview that that the applicant gives will be able to address any other current concerns. So don't feel bad that this is your last comment. So just wanted to let you know if you wanted to do an overview. It's left up to you.
The applicant, you're saying?
Yes, the applicant.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Yes, my name is Tom Thomasma. I am with Stanford Holding LLC, and this is a 45-acre parcel, and we are looking to split off 8 lots, 8 one-acre lots on Cedar Island Road for the purpose of building a single-family residential homes consistent with R1A zoning.
Okay. Was that? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And as I said, we're going to have a public hearing. If some questions come up, we can be able to have them addressed, and also from the standpoint of the commissioners. So I'm going to open up the public hearing for the Stanford Holding LL rezoning for the property parcel 1229-476-006. Opening that up at 7:17. Okay. Now, at this time, I'm sorry I missed the gentleman's, forgot the gentleman's name, but this would be the appropriate time if you had a question about this, that you could unmute yourself and ask the questions.
I think it was Mr. Shepherd.
Mr. Shepherd?
Yes, press *9 to raise your hand. And if you'd like to
Yeah,
comment.
I'm here. I'm here
There
now,
you are,
guys.
okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so okay, so I live directly across the street from this supposed building site, and I was just wondering. So I understand where the route's going to go, and the road's going to go in there, and it looks like it's going to go to the north and to the south, and there'll be 8 lots in there. Are they going to do anything for barriers along Bogey Lake Road to help mitigate some of the noise and the new traffic in the subdivision, or what might be planned for that?
Okay. We'll make a note of that. Barriers across. Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Shepherd?
I'm sure I'll have more later, but right now at this point, I guess was that main issue.
Okay, when you say, and I'm just trying to clarify, when you say you'll have some later, are you talking about during the public hearing, or you're talking about later on? Like
I might
tomorrow.
I might have a couple. Yeah, yes, and yes, probably in the next couple of days once I put my head to this. And now that I understand that the master plan and what's going on, and have seen it for my first time today, yeah, I'm sure I'll have a couple more questions for you in person. But yeah, that's it for now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. The other caller online, I don't know if they're attending because they had a question about the Stanford Holdings LLC rezoning, or if it's more for Lake Point. So that other caller, do you have any additional questions?
I actually had a couple comments about this proposal. I didn't know that it was just questions. Okay. Would it be okay to just say a couple comments?
Well, as long as you go ahead and give me your name and your address so we can have
of course.
Record.
You got it. My name is Autumn Gibson, okay. And I live at 1211 Bogey Lake Road.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ms. Gibson, go ahead.
Yep. So just like the other gentleman said, I'm pretty much right across the street from what's about to be happening. So I guess my biggest concern is that, right now you're talking about the 10 acres, but I know the gentleman to begin with talked about 40 some acres. So I guess my concern is that it's going to have a slippery slope effect, and eventually maybe we're going to have another neighborhood in here. It's only 8 homes right now, but like I said, that's my biggest concern. There is a lot of traffic on Bogey Lake, and especially where we are at Thompson and Bogey, we have a lot of accidents right there. So that's another, I guess, just flag that's going up for me. Also, the school zone. That school zone, it goes way past our house. People back up even past our house, and we won't even be able to get out of the neighborhood sometimes because the people are just backed up way, way, way past even Thompson. So it's, like I say, my biggest thing is pretty much about that. And then my other main point, sidewalks too. Of course, there's no sidewalks over there. There's going to be increased foot traffic. So that just seems like a safety hazard. And then otherwise, we moved out here from Livonia to get away from the city. And just, I don't know, it's just kind of frustrating when everything's getting built up. And one of the things we love most about White Lake is we're able to look out our front window and it's woods. It's farmland. It's woods. It's wonderful. We love it. So I guess we just don't want to lose that, We don't want to lose what we love most about White Lake.
Okay. Ms. Gibson, I have a question for you, and maybe you can clarify. Sure. You made the comment about backup of traffic. Is this mainly was it always like that, like 2 years ago, or is it mainly because of the situation that the drop off and everything from the COVID? I'm not.
It's been like that before COVID even. It's been like that for years.
Okay, so but
I can't say for years. We bought this house in September of 19, so at least since then.
September of 2019.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to be sure I understood what was happening as far as a backup. If it had changed because of the situation. But you're saying to the commissioners that it has not. It has not. It's been
That's
the same
correct.
thing. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Brian, do we have any other people online?
No other callers at the moment.
Okay. Mr. O'Neill, do you have a problem with us now closing the public hearing, or?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and mark the time as far as that we've gotten responses from the callers online, and we'll give an opportunity for the applicant to be able to address that, and also the commissioners to be able to ask any questions. So we'll be closing the public hearing at 7:23. Okay. Oh, 7:25.
Oh no, I was just raising my hand. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I picked the wrong number of fingers to hold up. If anyone needs any of the sections of the packet up for reference, just let me know. And just to clarify, it is a 45-acre parcel, and I may have jumped around a little bit. Let me just show this really quick. It's a 45-acre parcel. It is just a southerly 10 that is being rezoned, or the request is to be rezoned tonight. This shows kind of what parcel A, which is a current 45-acre parcel, will kind of look like when all is said and done. It'll have frontage on Bogey Lake Road if this is successful and they do their splits, and it'll have this small leg that goes down to Cedar Island, and that will be the remaining parcel. And then, as Tom mentioned in his presentation, the 1 acre lots, or roughly 1 acre lots, will all go, and I think Mr. Shepard said, in a north and south fashion. 6 of them are proposed to be in this stretch and 2 of them over here. So just so everybody understands, this is definitely not a subdivision. It's just acreage splits. That's not to say that a subdivision couldn't in the future happen on what is shown here as parcel A, because in the past people have inquired about doing a subdivision on all of this, and it would be smaller than 1 acre lots. So that's not what's being proposed today, but I just want everybody to know, the public in particular, that again, that 10 acres that is being discussed, and let me show it again on the aerial. Sorry, here we go. Is this strip here? And again, here's Bogey, and here's Cedar Island. So this is the 10 acres. And what's confusing is just that little leg that comes down to Cedar Island is also part of that strip that's being rezoned for future access to parcel A. It's going to remain with parcel A, and then the 8 lots will kind of fill in around it. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And there is no requirement for a simple land division like what's being proposed to go through a site plan, to go through the planning commission or the township board. It simply goes to the township assessor. She ensures that it meets all the requirements of the state and the township's land division acts and ordinances, and then allows through a survey, which is the other exhibit I showed you, to kind of prove out what is being proposed as far as the parcel dimension and parcel size, and then they get approved and they get issued new parcel numbers. So you can see they're all 333 feet deep and approximately 150 feet wide, or they're shown as most of them are 150 feet wide. So that is what's being proposed. There will not be a subdivision with this request.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. I see all these hands coming at me. Okay. Debbie, go ahead.
Sean, what I don't see on the survey is the dimension. Looks about the same with this as everything else for the access piece. The width.
It's on one of the exhibits. Let me find it for you.
Looks like it's about the same, 150, which.
Yeah, it's a little wider. Let me get to, here it is too. There, it's right here, 171. If you can see here where I'm kind of mousing around. Can you see that?
You got to go back and share your screen.
Am I not sharing my screen? Sorry.
Well, you were sharing it, then you closed it.
I'm looking at my own. You guys can't. Okay. Sorry.
I'm looking at the.
There we go.
There we go. Now you can see it. So there it is right there.
Okay, that's not on the one I'm looking at. Okay.
It's on exhibit B1.
It's on a different page. Okay.
Yep. So it's the same depth. It's just a little wider.
And my other question, but you answered it, was to make sure that the amount of splits meets the Land Division Act, but it sounds like the assessor's going to.
Right, because I think the minimum is going to be 1 acre as far as for the lots. Right?
Well, the amount of splits that they're allowed.
The amount of splits. I'm sorry. Okay.
I believe Tom has already talked to Janine, and he's already gone through the process of having it surveyed, which is usually not done yet at this point. Usually it's because it's kind of preliminary, but he's already taken that step. So he can maybe answer that. But I believe he's spoken with Janine and is kind of has these tentatively approved through her if he gets a rezoning.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah. Tom, how you doing? It's been a couple of years, huh? Got a question for you. It might be a little off topic, but when do you actually think you're going to try to start building these homes?
I would anticipate starting construction of a few of them this fall.
So the cost of construction materials doesn't scare you at all?
I'm terrified.
Yeah, I would be too.
And so, everything is day to day and evaluate it, but I would like to go ahead and do some construction right away.
All right, thanks.
If I'm not saying you guys don't have any more questions, I was just going to ask Mr. Thomas, the two people from the public had questions, Mr. Shepherd and Ms. Gibson, about barrier crossing and everything else. And I realized that what we're talking about is only a ruling for the zone changing, but do you have any thought or whatever else that you're going to create? I'm not holding you to it. I'm just asking. So you don't have to say anything if you don't have anything. I was just asking.
Yes, I believe Mr. Shepherd's concerns were mostly related to a future development on the major parcel, the big 40-acre parcel, and that's in the future. I don't know what that may be or could be or who is doing it. I have no way to address that at this time.
Okay, okay.
And Ms. Gibson's concerns seem to be the traffic on Bogey Lake Road. And our 8 lots will have 8 single-family driveways going only to Cedar Island.
Okay. Brian, can you clarify, is the 9548, is that Gibson or is that Shepherd?
That's Gibson.
Okay, so Shepherd
And,
dropped off.
Yes.
Okay.
It looks like Mr. Fine had his hand raised.
I do.
Okay, I'm gonna go back. I just wanted to get a clarification on that. So thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Fine, where the heck are you? Oh, there you are.
Right here, thank you. So if you change this to R1A, he just said that for each parcel, I'm thinking this is what he said, he's gonna have 8 homes on each parcel.
He's going to have one home
One
on
home for
each
each
of the 8.
8.
Okay, just one. That's what I want to know. If we did change it to R1A, because he's gonna be maybe building in the future, what's the most properties he can put on it? Is it just one? Can he put 2?
So the way he's shown this, he can get 8 parcels. If he was to not bring that connection through that Debbie was asking about just a minute ago, that leg that comes from the, I guess, larger parcel down, he could probably fit a 9th in there. The question just becomes, I don't know how many splits he has through, the Land Division Act and the state or the township's land division ordinance. I don't know whether or not he can get 8 splits out of it. So that's, 8 or 9 would be the maximum that he could get in this location. And it's also because the township requires, excuse me, you to have a net acreage of 1 acre. So if you looked at the survey, they're all slightly over. They're like 1 acre and a tenth, or 1.14 acres. It's because they lose the road right of way in that count. So with 10 acres, he does not get 10 lots. He'll only get 9 because he loses that road right of way. So it's the net number, not the gross number in the township. Not every community does it that way, but that's how we've done it.
Okay, then the other question, I'm looking at the map right now. So I see where he wants to build is on Cedar Island, not on Bogey Lake. And he's not even butting up against Bogey Lake. He's about 244 feet away. So the concerns of the neighbors on Bogey Lake is the future parcel. So there's no plans for that yet. We don't know.
Right. While this is one 45-acre parcel now, that 45 acres will become, I think, a 35 acre, let's say, once he removes, or 36 acre once he removes these lots he's talking about. So yeah, nothing on Bogey's being developed, but or rezoned. It's the frontage piece that we talked about in that strip that was described and shown. That is the only portion of the 45 acres that's affected.
Right.
But again, but you're right. In the future, I would expect at some point in the future, someone would want to come in and do something, and they would obviously have to go through public hearing and rezoning just like this. And then there'd be a site plan attached to it. And, our site plan would come forward, and the other neighbors would have plenty of time for input. And some of the things like Mr. Shepherd talked about regarding screening for neighboring properties would be discussed at that point, as well as sidewalks, which was mentioned by Ms. Gibson.
Right.
Okay. We're only talking about this 10 acres here. Okay.
Right. And it's just a simple land division. So there's no development ordinance, let's say, that really applies to it. It's just simply a land division.
Thank you.
Yep. And let me just say it this way. If this property was already zoned R1A, he wouldn't even be here. He would just go and get the splits. Right.
That was, I'm glad you said that, Sean, because that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. So as I said, commissioners, it's just the idea of changing the zoning from that standpoint. So we will be able to have other input as far as we move forward on this. So are there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Slicker.
Yeah, so I guess my first comment is, you know, he's going for rezoning and we don't know if he's got the splits to do what he intends to do there. I know, you know, you can only come back, we have to wait another year for some reason he didn't have the splits that he needed to go back to rezone the rest of it. My first question, and maybe it's, I don't know who that's for. Sean, that might be a question for you.
Sure, I can answer. So if he doesn't have the splits, he would just not be able to take as many off of that, excuse me, that parcel A that's shown. So let's say Janine said when she reviewed it, he only had 7 when she looked at it, then he wouldn't be able to create the 8 parcels. He would only be able to create 7. And if he decided to make them a little bit bigger and have 7, you know, 1.2 acre parcels instead of 1.1 acre parcels or something like that to, you know, chew up some of that land on the frontage, that would be his option. If more of it remained with the parent parcel, it would just be more of the parent parcel that was just split zoned to R1A. If that makes sense.
No, I get it. You know, and then number 2, is he going to be required to put sidewalks in front of all his individual homes?
No, he's not. The sidewalk ordinance does not apply to simple land divisions. When a neighborhood or subdivision is developed, that is when the ordinance requirements kick in. So an individual meets and bounds parcel, which is what this would be considered, not a platted lot or a condo lot, is created. That sidewalk requirement does not attach, is not a part of that.
Right. You know, and this is probably a question for Mr. Tomasma. You know, I don't know if you've done a layout for the remainder of the parcels or not. You know, I mean, I'm assuming you probably did. That's why you're putting these along Cedar Island and not internal to like a future subdivision as you are as the property to the west. But, you know, I don't know how that lays out or not. I want to look at that. But yeah, I just go back to my comment from a few weeks ago, the stub connection that we have to the road to the west, you know, we're going to have another one of those probably in the future. And I just like to try to eliminate those if possible. And I don't know, Sean, if you know this, is the utility company, are they charging people to put the roads through there? Or are they allowing some of these subdivisions to go through?
That's a great question. You know, we've had some interaction with ITC and we found them to be pretty cooperative. It's slow moving sometimes. I mean, their corridors run thousands of miles. And so, you know, we kind of get in line with everybody else who needs to use their corridor for something. I'm going to ask Mike, because we had a sewer main that ended up being, and maybe water too, sewer for sure, I believe, Mike, right? Or no, I'm sorry, no, maybe it was water and sewer. I'll let you just answer it. But over by the church, further up Bogey Lake Road for the Redwood project, they had to bore through the ITC corridor. Was there a fee for that?
I remember there being a fee, Sean. We certainly had to get approvals, and I don't remember. I don't think we had any. I think we have an easement across their property for that, for future maintenance and everything as well, but I don't remember there being a fee associated.
I remember there being a pretty significant insurance requirement that was on the township and on the developer, and, you know, for obvious reasons. So that was the, I guess, most onerous part that I remember, was getting the insurance squared away. But I didn't recall a fee either. And to your point, Matt, let me show you here an aerial.
It used to be 25, or now I think it's up to $50,000 to cross these guys.
Okay.
And, you know, I don't know if it's different for commercial versus residential streets or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, to me, it just is a shame. We're gonna have another stub there. You know, then we're gonna have these 8 lots in a row. And then, you know, I don't know what's gonna happen to the rest of this parcel, but.
So one of the things, and I think one of the beauties of rezoning this whole stretch, gives Tom and his group a little bit of flexibility to shift some of these properties around. This is a property that I mentioned earlier when we were talking about surrounding zoning in the report. So the ITC corridor cuts right through here. And I mean, if I back out, you can very kind of clearly see the strip. And here is a stub and a cross connection on Kaya Way for Cedar Meadows. You know, people own property, people pay taxes, they have property rights. And you know, I get that Tom's looking at doing his division here, but I would like to spend some time with him to see if there might be a chance that, you know, we try to, you know, maybe leave that opening instead of being down here. Maybe we leave that opening over here, maybe push that first house further away from the ITC corridor and try to have the future road kind of line up here so it can intersect Kaya Way instead of it possibly intersecting the back of a lot. I didn't do the measurement here. But to me, you know, with the scale I have on my computer, it looks like, you know, it may eliminate the possibility of a cross access through here, which is, I think, what you were talking about, Matt, if that first lot goes kind of right here, because this is about the width of the corridor, kind of right in here. So if that first lot, instead of it being here, gets kind of moved down a little bit, you know, there's quite a bit of buffering here already. Not that we couldn't add it, but you can see the posts or the poles here when I zoom in. You know, it'd be nice to have the road kind of come in over here. I mean, obviously these people probably wouldn't agree, but you know, from a traffic management standpoint, it gives just another access. If I'm understanding what you're saying, and I'm not maybe doing a very good job of articulating it, but I agree with you. And I think by rezoning this whole strip, this whole rectangle, it allows for some discussion about that. Though ultimately the decision when it comes down to a land division isn't really the township's so much, because he isn't required to do what I just mentioned, but it's something I can talk to him about. And it may, you know, serve him better when he looks at it again from a future road layout standpoint, which is one of your original comments, Matt. You know, has he looked at kind of how that road network would work in a future project. So I hear what you're saying, and we're kind of thinking about that and talking about that a little bit.
I mean, so we lose the so we'll lose the sidewalk on Cedar Island. Yeah. Okay. I understand. That's it.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Slicker. Anybody else have any comments? Okay. Before if the commissioners have to recommendation to the board, I just want to keep just review this, that, you know, the whole thing is part and meets the master plan. The traffic patterns and everything else for 8 homes is by far a smaller amount in comparison to a development of a large parcel. And like when you consider the recommendation to the board is to be able to, as Mr. O'Neill said, the rezoning traffic plan to be waived because of it's such a small impact on the current situation, and everything else is compatible with what we have. So we need to have a motion for a recommendation to the board for rezoning from AG to R1A for parcel number 12-29-476-006. Do we have a commissioner that feels comfortable in addressing that? Okay.
Sure.
Mr. Ruggles?
Well, yeah, is it all right if I make a motion?
Sure, I'd be happy to go ahead.
Okay.
We might even get somebody to support it.
All right. Let's see if I can do this here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the rezoning from Ag AG to R1A single family residential for parcel number 12-29-476-006 vacant parcel, and waive the rezoning traffic plan.
Okay, and don't forget to include all the notes from the different commissioners from all the different consultants, right?
And to include all the notes from the consultants.
Okay, so which is good, and this is a recommendation to the board. Do we have support?
I'll support.
Okay, we've got a motion, a recommendation to the board, and we have support. Can we go ahead and have, oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
I
O'Neill.
was just going to interrupt. I'm sorry. Tom, if I could ask you, at least on the record while we're here, you don't have to answer me today. We mentioned that you don't have to put the sidewalks in, but as you see out there, the neighborhood that's to the west of you does have sidewalks, and the township's goal is to be able to let those kids eventually walk to school. When there's been a gap, like through the ITC corridor, the township has generally gone in and used some of our parks and rec funds to make those sidewalk connections. So if for these 8 homes, you would consider putting or continuing that sidewalk across the frontage, so there's some good pedestrian connectivity, it would be very much appreciated by not only the planning commission and the staff, planning staff, but also the Parks and Rec committee. So just kind of, I want to say that on the record and certainly encourage you to do that.
Do you have any, do you want to comment, Mr. Thomason, about that?
No, I will take it under consideration.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. Okay, just all good for the township. Okay, can we, Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Steve Anderson,
Yes.
Peter Maher,
Yes.
Matt Slicker,
Yes.
Mark Fine,
Yes.
Joe Seward,
Yes.
Scott Ruggles,
Yes.
Debbie DeHart,
Yes.
Rhonda Grubb. Yes.
Okay, all commissioners voted as far as in the affirmative. Okay, well, thanks a lot for your time, Mr. Tom. It's not necessary for you to stay on. You know, if you want to, you're more than welcome.
And for
Thank
everyone,
you all.
thanks, Tom. And just so you know, Tom, and so everybody else knows who's watching, this will be forwarded along to the township board for first reading. At this point, it'll go to the supervisor's office tomorrow, and it will be in the packet for the May 18th township board meeting, Tuesday, May 18th. So that'll be the next time this is on an agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Okay, let's move on to the next item on the business. Is the location is that for the final site plan approval for Lake Point, located on the northeast corner of Union Lake Road and Carpathian, consisting of approximately 13.32 acres. Hold on, I gotta move my screen a little bit. The property is currently zoned PD, plan development, identified as parcel numbers 12-36-177-002 and 17-36-177-003. As I said, it is a final site plan. It's a plan development agreement that you've had in your package. With regard, the applicant is Fairview Construction Company. Okay, there we go. Let me go back to here. Okay, who wants to go first there, Mr. O'Neill?
It's up to you. I'll hit on a couple planning comments if you'd like, or we can let Mr. Lufkin
yeah, let
dazzle you with his brilliance.
That's right. I tell you what, Mr. Lufkin, why don't you go first? Because you know, that way we want you to be sure you earn your keep.
No problem. Mr. Anderson, did you want me to cover the plan development agreement first or the final site plan?
Well, I tell you what, why don't you go ahead and do the site plan first, and then that way it'll just, to me, it'll roll into PD.
Certainly, sure.
Okay.
All right, so in your package, you should have a DLZ letter dated April 8th. That's our final site plan and engineering plan review for the Lake Point development. The plans are in good shape at this point. Our previous comments have been addressed, and we recommend approval subject to the applicant acquiring some other agency permits and approvals. And of course, this site is heavily tied into the West Valley development in terms of the sanitary sewer and storm sewer that's part of the West Valley project that this Lake Point project will need in place in order to function. So our previous comments had been addressed. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has on the review.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I got one for Michael. I noticed in the detention calculations and the grading plan that this site currently drains to the north along Union Lake Road. It doesn't drain to the ultimate outlet that it's going to be using. And typically, you only use that capacity that you've got going there right now, but they're increasing that. That's why make sure you check the outlet downstream to make sure it's capable of handling that. We're not impacting anybody further.
Yeah, and I know the design engineer is on the line too, so he could answer that. But I know they've designed the Lake Point site to detain water on site. Originally, this development's been through a few iterations. It was originally designed as a retention basin, but when they acquired the West Valley property, they were able to convert to a detention, have an outlet going through the West Valley property. But the calculations have been reviewed for hydraulic capacity in the outlet. They've acquired the appropriate discharge permits from Eagle to their outlet. So
that's all I had.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. If not, I have a question, sir. Okay. We're talking about the same scenario about the water and taking the water from one area to the other. Is the traffic, is the water flow going to be underneath, right? Underneath Union Lake Road, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How are they going to be able to manage that? Is it going to be a situation where it won't disrupt the traffic flow? They're going to be able to bore it, or how is that going to work? I didn't see how that was in the communications.
Jason, do you remember? I don't have the plan up in front of me. Do you remember the installation method on the storm pipe?
All methods are for all utility crossings are either a bore and jack or a directional drill. So meaning no open cut, no road closures.
No road closures. So as this process occurs, it's not going to disrupt the flow of traffic.
That's correct.
Okay. Now I have another question, and I'm sorry I asked this because I don't know the answer. When you're doing that, as far as how far below the surface of the street surface is this going to occur, as far as the distance between the water flowing, the hole, in a sense, the hole and the street?
Trying to get to that right now.
Okay.
It's minimum 3 feet cover. I'm trying to get you the actual number. We probably have something deeper than that.
Yeah, I mean,
and it is, and I don't have my scale open, but it appears to be approximately 5 feet from the crown of the road to the top of the pipe. And that particular pipe for the stormwater outlet is a bore and jack inside a steel casing pipe. So they'll actually put a 24-inch steel casing pipe below the road and then come back in later on and put a 15-inch concrete storm pipe inside of that pipe. So the casing pipe's nice. If it ever breaks, the storm sewer pipe, which we hope it doesn't, but if it ever does and it needs to be replaced, it can be replaced and no disruption to traffic in the future as well.
The reason why I was asking that question, and I brought it up to Mr. O'Neill today, was that there was an area not in White Lake, but a close township that had a situation where, I don't know if it was because of water flow or whatever else, it created a sinkhole. And I mean, it just, so that was my concern from that standpoint, that this would be intact and we wouldn't have to worry about it, because the amount of traffic that's coming across Union Lake Road could put undue pressure on that road. And if all of a sudden there's a void, it could create it. And I just need you to assure me that I feel that that's not going to happen. And
Yeah, I
know, it's
can't,
about to say,
I can tell you it's engineered properly. I can't tell you how it's going to be built.
Right.
I can also tell you that the road commission specifically had comments on this particular crossing
Okay.
and asked us to put it inside a bore and jack steel casing pipe for future maintenance reasons. And then we did that because they asked us to. So we don't have our permit for this road commission yet. It's being reviewed currently right now, but we did have preliminary review comments, and that was one of their comments.
Okay, Mr. Lupton, does that make you feel comfortable? Because, you know, I mean, you.
Yeah, I'm comfortable from that standpoint, Mr. Anderson. It's pretty common to have stormwater crossing the road. The thing that's a little bit unique about this is that we're passing stormwater from one development through another to the ultimate outlet. When we get to the PDA review, that's where I mentioned a joint losing my verbiage here, but a joint maintenance agreement between the two developments for future maintenance of that storm sewer, and we can get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I will add on one other thing. Right now, the northeast side of Union Lake Road doesn't have a positive stormwater outlet. So if it rains really hard, there's flooding up along the frontage right now. Once this development moves forward, we have ditches and end sections to pick up this drainage and direct it below the road. So it's going to relieve a flooding issue that currently exists along the Union Lake Road frontage.
Okay, that's positive. Yes, sir, Mr. Milhart.
Yeah, this is for either Michael or Sean, and I think it's probably a good assumption, but I know at the end of Michael's letter, there are a number of bullet points that, the way I read them, they're unresolved and therefore would be subject to make these things go through, such as a bypass lane, such as the final engineering plans coordinated between the two developments, and off-site easement to run the sidewalk to Independence Village. You know, all that, I guess I'd call it housekeeping, but all that stuff would have to be cleaned up and dealt with, I assume.
Is that correct, Michael?
See, what letter is that on? Because I'm not seeing that on my last.
April 8th, or is that the PD?
This is on the final site plan.
But is the date the April 8th? Is that?
Well, I'm having trouble
I'm not
accessing.
trying. I'm just trying so that we can all be on the same page, Pete. That's all I was asking.
I'm looking at the required permits and approvals on the final site plan from the April 8th letter. I've got the road commission permit, soil erosion permit, a notice of coverage, NPDES permit, Eagle water main permit, Eagle sanitary permit.
This was at, I think, the very end of your letter, your cover letter.
Is that possibly your letter, Sean? I'm not seeing it on mine.
I don't know, because I know we initially wanted a bypass lane, but I know the road commission is not requiring it, and that kind of was an issue that came up. But that they're not proposing a bypass lane, and the road commission is not requiring one. So I'm trying to.
So you don't, Michael, you don't remember, okay, you just talked about the coordination of their maintenance plan, but you also had a piece about coordination with their final engineering plans. You referred to them as FEPs.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking that might be an older review you're looking at. Pete?
Okay, all right, it was in my packet, that's all.
That's why I was asking what the
I'm looking.
date was. So
I'm looking right now.
I just know that the review I was reading from included final engineering plan comments, and they've addressed those to my satisfaction. There's still some permits that are outstanding that they're working on achieving.
So Pete, I think it's on page 1 of your, Mike, of your letter where it says grading and paving. The proposed bypass lane on the west side of Union Lake Road has been removed from the submittal. We defer to Oakland County Road Commission regarding the requirements for this bypass lane. It says comment remains as a notation.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they determined that it was not needed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I don't want to get hung up on this stuff, so.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, okay, Mr. Flicker.
Yeah, a couple of things. You know, I'm looking at the interior. I know you guys, this is the second time this has been around and the first time you've seen it. But like all the sidewalks from the units go straight out to the sidewalk and along the internal roadways, except for like 10, 11, and 12. And those are kind of what you typically see where they kind of curve into this driveway. I don't know if there's a reason for that, why, you know, and certainly you guys could change at any time. It just seems odd that you can't walk from the driveway to the sidewalk, you know, and you got to walk out to the road and back around or walk through your grass. So that seems kind of odd to me. And then secondly, you know,
hold on just a second, Mr. Slicker. Mr. O'Neill, can you put that up on our sharing screen, what Mr. Slicker is talking about, so we can all see it? Is that too much of a problem?
No, let's see. Sorry, give me just 1 second. I actually had gone to the landscape plan, so I don't know if you can see, Matt, what you want to see or need to see.
Yeah, I'm just
busy.
Yeah, you don't see the units, but if you go down further, the most southerly ones. Oh yeah, now the unit numbers are on there. But the most southerly ones down in the corner here, you can see how the sidewalks on the units kind of wraps to the driveways, and all the other ones go from the units like straight out to the sidewalk on the road. They don't connect to the driveways.
Let me get to a different plan sheet unless Jason wants to share one of his. My computer's
I'm looking at in the packet sheet 36 out of 154. That helps. And there is a reason for this, and I'm happy to comment whenever if everyone's ready for this.
Can you share your screen, Jason? If you're on that screen, let me stop sharing mine. I'd rather you be able. You know these plans better than anybody.
I can try. I just have about 14 PDFs open here, so let me see if I got the correct one here. All right, let me know if everyone can see this.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the original plan, actually for this side and for West Valley, and the preferred option was to have all these sidewalks curve into the driveways the way they're showing on units 10, 11, and 12. Well, if you actually look at the length of driveways on units 10, 11, and 12, that actually helps us achieve ADA compliance. So that way these driveways on these particular units aren't that steep. When you look at it more of a standard unit like we have where it's perpendicular to the road, kind of like on units 4, 5, and 6, if I was able, originally we wanted to curve these sidewalks into the driveways, but because these driveways are so short that they were steeper than what ADA would allow. So the only way we can make them ADA compliant was to connect them directly to the sidewalk out front and extend the length of the sidewalk. So this is every unit on this site, and not that we're reviewing the other site, but also in West Valley, is fully ADA accessible. And so we had to basically uncurve these sidewalks from the driveway and extend them to the sidewalk in order to make it happen. On these particular units here, the driveway is really long, so we were able to flatten the slope on the driveway and make them ADA compliant. So then the other issue is here on this kind of tight curvy radius here, we can't extend these sidewalks down through. There's not enough room here. For example, between units 12 and 13, there's just simply not enough space to put 2 sidewalks through there, but we didn't need to put them through there because we were able to achieve ADA compliance by coming up the driveway on these particular units.
How does that make them ADA compliant? I mean, what's the slope difference?
I mean, I would have to pull out my engineering CAD drawings to tell you that, but ADA requires maximum longitudinal slope of 5%, unless you have a railing, in which case you can have 8%. We're obviously not going to have railings out here on these driveways. So these driveway slopes on these particular units are probably less than 5%, whereas these driveways over here are probably steeper than 5%. Which is why we could not connect the sidewalks there. My guess is those driveways are right here are probably 6 to 8%. And these driveways over here are probably like 4% or something like that. And the threshold for ADA compliance is 5% without a rail.
And my second question in the sidewalk is along Union Lake Road. You know, I noticed in somewhere in the letter about the easement to the Indian Village to the north, and then we've got it connected into the Carpathian Drive down to the south, you know, the only thing I say is, you know, we're leading people into a road. You know, we're not leading them into a sidewalk, and we're pushing people to walk on a road by doing that. Is that something we really want to have, you know, throughout the township? This is kind of what I know we're just developing our sidewalk plan, but it's just gonna, I don't know if we want to have people, you know, push people walking the road.
So this sidewalk was part of our preliminary site plan approval, that little extension off-site over to Independence Circle. And the notation, I can actually zoom in on it. I think it says here, it says like, if we can secure permission from Independence Village in order to build that sidewalk. Well, we were not able to secure permission from Independence Village to build this sidewalk. So built into the PD agreement, which is probably the next topic on our agenda, there is something built into the PD agreement where I forget the exact amount, but it's a little over $2,000 that the applicant, Michael Fenari, is paying into this White Lake Township Sidewalk Fund. So you guys can use those funds wherever you want on any sidewalk within the community. But this sidewalk that you're talking about from our property line to here is no longer actually part of the plan.
I think
That
Jason,
was-
I think that dollar amount is $5,000, not 2,000.
I don't remember. I'd have to pull up the PD agreement.
that's
It's in
pretty
your
different.
packet and we could read it.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
remember the
yeah.
amount.
Okay. Mr. Slicker, did that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, you got the same issue to the other end on the south end
Right.
too.
I mean, yeah, but as long as they're working toward, you know, trying to be able to do it, and they ask, and they can't control some of the times of other people.
Well, Steve, my question is, if they were able to get permission, is that what we want? We want people to end a sidewalk going out into a road.
Yeah, it's like one situation you have the sidewalk and you have it, and the other one is, how dangerous is it to go ahead and continue that? I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if we can just do that without picking them up on the other side. I don't think you can just dump
Right.
traffic. So it would have to comply. However it's done, it would have to at least have a landing on the other side, if I'm not mistaken.
I think these extensions, I didn't actually originally propose them. I was asked to add them in at some point. To be honest with you, I can't go back 2 years and remember off the top of my head who asked us to do that, but we were asked to extend these sidewalks in this fashion. I don't know if it was by an engineering review, a road commission review, a planning commission comment. I don't know, but this stuff was all added in actually. And it wasn't really proposed by us.
We'll make sure that we, you know, on the final construction set, we make sure that it's compliant with all the requirements as it pertains to these kinds of crossings.
This will all be included in our road commission for Oakland County, which is currently being reviewed right now as well. This is all within their right of way, and they will certainly comment on the traffic safety regarding that if they take issue with that. So.
Okay. Any other things as far as commissioners? Okay. So we want to move to the PDA, or do you want to be able to have McKenna's part of, are you going to respond for McKenna's presentation, Mr. O'Neill?
I can hit on a few items really quick. Their letters
Okay.
are pretty straightforward if you'd like me to.
Yeah, why don't we do that before we go to that way all that's taken care of, and then we can review the PDA.
Sure. Let me zip back up here. So one of the items has to do with the current plan shows a deficiency in plantings. Perhaps, and I see or did see Mr. Fenari has joined if they want to explain. But there is some existing vegetation on site. I mean, quite a bit of it will be removed when the units go in, but you know, we don't have a woodland ordinance, so it's a little subjective unless you were to have them go out and inventory the trees and evaluate the trees. But you know, at this point, they're deficient by a couple of hundred plantings.
You say a couple of hundred, maybe 200?
Well, you know, the ordinance says that you're supposed to have 5 shrubs per 300 square feet of interior landscaping. So that would say that, you know, they have to have 1,247 shrubs. And that's a lot of shrubs, but there are 947 shrubs proposed. with the applicant proposing 620 perennials and grasses to supplement for the shrubs that they're deficient. I don't have any objection to this. They're planting, trees as well. They're planting, hundreds of trees also. So I want just to call that out and make sure you're aware of that. I don't have an objection to it, kind of mixing some things up a little bit. But that was pointed out in the letter. The lighting, there is no street lighting here. And the kind of fixtures they're proposing are just sort of your coach lights on a garage, which is basically the same thing as that was proposed and approved across the street at West Valley. So they feel that the driveways are short enough and enough of these units will have coach lights on them to where, it'll provide enough light down near the street. And so that was kind of called out that, they don't have cutoff fixtures, but this isn't your typical street light. So I don't know that it's a big deal, but that's in the letter. And then also signage. They're showing a 43 square foot ground sign. The ordinance, the letter of the ordinance states that one monument sign, not more than 30 square feet in area, is allowed. So it's a difference of 13 square feet. Not hugely different necessarily, but that's just called out. So I don't know that McKenna had any issue with any of this, just wanted to make you aware of it. If you are good with all of this, then these are items that, get picked. These are kinds of things that get picked up in the development agreement. So that way any deviation from a specific ordinance requirement is, kind of collected in that document. So going forward, there's an understanding as to, what was allowed and why and how. So that's all I really have. And, the only thing I would say is I think the applicants have indicated that they intend to meet all the requirements. Any odd and end that's not tied up here, they intend to, address and, change in their final pre-construction set of plans.
So let me just.
Michael, real quick, I'm pretty certain we revised the sign to be less than 30 square feet, and I'm trying to find it right now, but I just wanted to make that comment. I'm pretty sure the signage was reduced to meet ordinance.
So if you do intend to meet the 30 feet, then you just need to say so tonight, and then we'll make sure that's picked up in the minutes. And then, your subsequent plan submittal can show a sign that's, 30 square feet, which would be preferred anyway by the township. So that would be a good thing.
I'm pretty sure we did that. I'm trying to find it, but everyone else can please proceed while I.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't have the whole screen up, so I don't know if you guys are raising your hands to ask the question. So any questions by the commissioners? Yes, Debbie. Yes, DeHart.
I guess I still have an issue, and I understand Oakland County Road Commission is not saying that they have to put the lane in. But I mean, the traffic is horrendous on that street as it is. And I thought we had said, and I know it was a while ago, that we did want a community impact study, and I understand they're asking for that to be waived. So my concern is that we still need some sort of study. And is there any way to alleviate the turning issues without putting in that turn lane?
I will. You are correct about the community impact statement. We did do I think it was called a traffic impact assessment. There was a study done by a professional traffic engineer, Fleece and Vandenbrink, who does a lot of the traffic studies in the area, including, I forget the name of the development, Sean, but the one just north on Union Lake Road.
Yeah, Preserve Hidden Lake. Yeah.
And then she also did the MI Homes project over on Williams Lake Road. She did, so she's very familiar with the traffic in and around the area. She's also the Commerce Township's traffic consultant, so she's very familiar with the traffic situation down at Cooley Lake Road and Union Lake Road as well. She's the one that prepared our traffic study. She showed that the level of service did not change without doing any of this, and obviously it came with opposing reviews from people on the township board and probably at this body as well. But she did the analysis based on, and again, my apologies, I'm not a traffic engineer, but she did all the analysis showing that the level of service did not change at this particular intersection with this development. She also included West Valley as well in that traffic impact study and the appropriate growth rates. So her recommendation was that no turning lane improvements or left-hand turn lane bypass lanes were warranted. They didn't meet the road commission thresholds to do those improvements. The road commission so far hasn't said that they're going to require a passing lane. So that's really all I can say about the passing lane and the traffic. There's no other studies or anything we can do to show you anything else.
Well, Jason, the only thing is I know for a fact that I took issue with her presentation and also with the study, mainly because I brought up the idea that here we have passing lanes on both, as we talked about, on Elizabeth Lake Road, and also in the areas that I don't think that the traffic for those areas are more than what's happening as far as on Union Lake Road. So I took a strong issue with her because she could not validate just saying, hey, this is the study, but she could not address why do we have turning lanes on the other, which the traffic flow pattern is less.
I can't answer for Julie. I don't know why she couldn't answer that question. Possibly because she didn't study those particular approaches or intersections. I don't know how to address that.
Okay, well, just to let you know that we definitely do have some concerns about that. So anyway, yes, Sean.
Well, I got a question. I guess, I mean, she submitted this traffic study and did a presentation. Michael, do you guys have someone that reviews that and concur with that?
Well, we did review the assessment and checked the, just checked the numbers on it. We didn't have an objection to the numbers or the findings based on the study.
Did anybody else have any other questions with regard to this?
Debbie mentioned the CIS, and I just wanted to weigh in. The community impact statement is required when, in order to document the anticipated impacts of intensive development projects. It's difficult. I would say if a Meyer was going in with 6 outlots, that would obviously be an intensive development project. This is almost the exact same level of intensity, if not the same level of intensity as its sister project, West Valley, across the street. But because that was zoned RM1, it did not require a community impact statement. So to me, it didn't seem equitable, just from I guess, practically speaking, when, basically the same things being considered on both sides of the road. And just because it's zone PD, a community impact statement is needed. I'm going to let them give you information on it. I've asked them to be prepared to talk about, some of the I don't know if they want to focus on the maybe lack of impact compared to a larger project, or some of the benefits that this project will bring from, value standpoint, number of anticipated residents, number of kids in school, what kind of an impact it'll have on the police and fire millages, the library millages, that kind of thing. I mean, these are the things that those studies kind of flesh out to some extent. It's trying to determine what kind of value it brings to a community compared to the impact that it would have on the community. And it is from, a financial standpoint, but it also is from the standpoint of utilities. I think Mike could speak to its impact on utilities. It's going to, be on the water and sewer system, and that's been planned for and permitted for. The traffic impact has been a concern of both this commission, the township board, and some of the surrounding neighbors. There have been some things done to help to hopefully mitigate some of that. Part of the development agreement, public benefit, includes a $15,000 contribution to the neighbors for speed bumps. Hopefully that will be of some assistance. So I guess I would like them to speak a little bit about that. I'm not here to do that for them, but
Sean, could I ask you a question?
sure.
Is the issue for a community impact study the time that it takes to prepare one, or is it an and or the cost of doing one of these?
It's probably both, but I'll let them explain.
Okay.
I'm happy to dive in if that's what Mr. Anderson would like with regards to. The
I mean,
community impact.
as I said, I just hadn't gotten a clarification on it, and it concerns me that that the other subs and the other developers don't have a problem with doing that, even if it's not necessarily needed, or I shouldn't say needed, not necessarily saying the road commission says it has to be done. But because of the community impact and what it's going to do, they've elected to put them in. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak intelligently about what happened at other projects, so I don't know how to comment on that. But whether they were required or not, and by who they were required, I have no idea. Should I go into the community impact statement items required in section 6.6, or should I not?
Yeah, feel free.
All right, I will. I know my boss, Michael Finari, is on here. I'm going to defer any comments about economics and jobs and so on and so forth regarding all that to him. Impact on fire and police, that sort of thing. So he is hopefully listening and can unmute after I go through. What I will talk about is land use and sewers and that sort of thing, the things that I'm prepared to talk about. The land use is a single family attached. It is consistent with the master plan. The density is around 5 units per acre. The master plan calls for 4 to 8 units per acre. So we're on the lower end of the density called for in the master plan. The surrounding land uses, we have residential to the east. There's a small commercial place southeast of us on the other side of Carpathian Drive. West Valley across the street's been rezoned to RM1. That's getting developed here hopefully pretty soon. And then we have the senior living facility, Independence Village, just to the north of us. In terms of natural features, the site's vacant. It's full of sand. There are no streams, rivers, bodies of water. All of them are over 500 feet away. The closest body of water is Cooley Lake. That is actually ultimately our stormwater outlet through wetlands. We do have our Eagle permit for the stormwater outlet. The proposed development will not have any hazardous materials. It's a residential development. Types and quantities of pollutants are not anything different than what a normal residential development will put out. Groundwater quality and quantity. We had soil borings on this project to a depth of 30 feet. There was no groundwater to a depth of 30 feet on this project. Across the street at West Valley, we found out through borings that the groundwater on that project is at or about the level of Cooley Lake. Well, this site's about 60 feet above Cooley Lake, so I don't know if the groundwater here is 60 feet deep or not, but it probably is based on what we saw across the street. Noise. The noise is a 69 unit residential development. You guys have them all over White Lake. It is kind of I'll defer to Michael on the types of people that will live in here. I believe it's age restricted. I'll let Michael talk about that, but there isn't going to be a lot of noise coming out of this subdivision for that. Those are the items that I was supposed to talk about. Michael, if you could, I see you unmuted. Could you please talk about your development? What type of people are going to live here?
Sure.
Police and fire, number of construction jobs, estimated total construction build out cost, those sorts of things, if you could.
Sure. Basically, we think we're providing a very unique product in the community that is keeping active adults and empty nesters within your community. So we've built this in 5 or 6 communities now. this ranch or condominium for lease. And we feel that it is a product that's lacked in a lot of communities because it's not an assisted living and it's not, say, an apartment building either. So we feel like it's a unique product to keep seniors within the community and not traveling to other communities. Financially, it's a multi-million-dollar project that will be built at once in the community. Again, like Jason says, we're bringing utilities along Union Lake Road. We typically, I think what Mr. O'Neill said, these impact statements are, typically for, developments over, 200 units, Walmart coming in town, high use commercial uses. You typically don't do these statements on a 69 unit, age targeted development. So it's not that we didn't think it was necessary. It's just you typically don't see this on such a small type of development going on. If you guys have any other questions, I can answer them for you.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions with regard to this? So, Mr. O'Neill, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm
Ms.
just a
Grubb.
little slow.
Okay.
It's no question, just a comment though, that I too do have concern about the traffic and people having to wait for somebody to turn left in front of them. So either a turn lane or a bypass lane, I think is important. But I'm not the expert on road traffic either. I just drive in it. Don't have a problem with less bushes and trees planting. I think that's not the kind of development you need that much to have planted there. It's pretty close and you don't want trees overgrowing on homes. And those are my comments.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Grubb. Anybody else have any comments? You've been quiet, Mr. Stewart. Did you?
I am listening and gathering and soaking in the wisdom that has been expressed so far tonight.
Okay. A true politician. Okay. I guess the key thing, and I'm just, as I said, I still can't get out of my mind about the idea of the amount of traffic that's going to be on Union Lake Road. And so we got 69 units on one side, on the west side. And then how many units, I can't remember, how many units do we have on the east side?
Same number.
Same amount.
So now we got 138 units of traffic flow additional dumping onto the Union Lake. And how many units do we have at Hidden Preserve?
Roughly 134 approved and probably closer to 120-ish, 122 with a modification they're coming back with. It's going to go down just a little bit.
Okay, and they have a turn lane there, right? As far as them, and even our wonderful police department has a tendency to park over there so they can do that. So, go ahead, Mr. Slicker.
Yeah, Sean, I mean, I don't know if who talks to the road commission regularly. Have they looked at the whole corridor and, I mean, is there any plan to widen this road to 3 lanes through here with a center left turn? And then ultimately they would push back this A-cell, D-cell or tapers that they're putting on there?
I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I believe their hope would be to have an additional lane or passing lanes at certain intervals. I don't meet with them on a regular basis. I know the supervisor does have an opportunity to sit down with them from time to time and discuss kind of their strategic plan. It's usually, grander than,
You froze, Mr. O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill?
On Soho.
So,
Uh-oh.
uh-oh.
Is he striking a pose?
So while Mr. O'Neill gathers his internet flow, let me just ask this: if you get Michael, Jason, knowing that the situation on the you base the idea of not putting the
I'm back.
turn lanes in. Oh, turn. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was looking at Matt and it looked like he fell asleep because I think the whole thing froze and his eyes were blinking at that time. And I'm like, he's really concentrating. I'm staring right at him. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just talking to myself. So I have no idea what point in time I froze up, but I kept talking for like 5 minutes before I realized it. So I'll just say in summary, we don't, I don't know what the long-term plan is for this corridor exactly. Obviously, when there are opportunities for them to make gains with traffic safety and traffic flow, they will. I was surprised they didn't want this bypass lane. I think when Jason designed it, he anticipated they would require this. Then when I think they didn't, he was as surprised as we were. I'm a little disappointed that they didn't require it, but that's where we're at this point. They have control over our road network. We do not. All of our public roads are all county roads. And so we're kind of along for the ride, unintended to some extent. Obviously we can push them, we can try to leverage them, but it's their decision. The discussion was previously that when the property across the street that is not owned by Mr. Furnari develops, that would be the time to get a bypass lane or a passing lane. That's the goal at this point, and our hope would be the road commission would also support that at that time. These two projects, just like the one up the road that was mentioned, are kind of at the tail end of what is decades worth of development, half a century worth of development with very little attention paid toward roads and moving cars. And they're the last one in, and a bypass lane is not going to fix the congestion down the road at Cooley and Union. I mean, there's lots of frustration with traffic. I don't know that this project is going to have an opportunity to make that any better or any worse, quite frankly. And, I'm not being blunt, I guess, we're not trying to be blunt, but I think that's just the situation. We've got 550 residential units going in right now in the southeast quadrant of the township. So this is just a small portion of that. And, none of them are responsible for all the traffic problems that have been, kind of plaguing this area for, half a century. So it's frustrating, I know.
But Mr. O'Neill, in the event, if a developer wanted to put a bypass lane in, then would they have to get special permission from the road commission, or can they just do it?
They would have to be permitted to do so by the road commission. If the road commission says you're not required to do it, but if you really want to, you can. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think many people do more than what the road commission asks them to do. They hope the road commission doesn't ask them to do more than they want to do, actually. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me just ask this, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. I'm just getting clarification so I can wrap this around my head. Jason and Michael, when before you got the impact study, did anyone check to see what the cost would be to do that?
I can't speak to the costs, but I can tell you that in order to build a bypass lane there, and I actually did this, we looked into this with the previous applicant and this project before Michael and this development ever came across. In order to build a bypass lane there's only 33 feet of statutory right of way. In order to build a bypass lane right there, we would have to get a temporary construction easement from that landowner over there, or a permanent grading easement in order to build over there. More than likely, we'd have to get like a 15-foot temporary construction easement, which puts this whole development at the mercy of that developer or that landowner over there. And not only would we have to get that easement, we'd probably have to build about a 6-foot tall retaining wall, install a guardrail, and it might actually create a little bit of a dangerous situation right there. Most people don't see this. If you drive up and down Union Lake Road quite a bit, the grade drops off significantly right there. The fall on West Valley and that other parcel over there is 30 feet from Union Lake Road down to the subdivision down at the other end. So the cost would be huge. The cost would be, you're talking a very expensive guardrail, a 6-foot tall retaining wall that would run 300 linear feet, temporary grading easements, possibly permanent grading easements. And then this whole development is underneath the mercy of that landowner across the street, which Michael is not in control of. So that's what we're talking about doing right now, is all that work. A lot of money, and it's not warranted by traffic studies or road commission standards.
Okay. So where, Mr. O'Neill, where does that leave us as far as part of that? Is it anything that can be done as far as changing the plan development agreement, or is it just we're looking at it on the mercy of this impact study?
I guess, just to clarify, you're talking about the bypass lane?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, if my struggle with this is we're at the very end of this process.
Right.
If this was something that we were going to dig in on, it should have been probably done at the very first meeting instead of at the very last one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it puts us in a kind of an odd spot when the road commission, who is the agency we look to when it comes time to permit or not require these types of things, says that you don't have to do it. It kind of puts us in a difficult position.
Okay. No, I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, I just want to have everything out on the table on what the situation is, so all the commissioners will understand what they're, because Ms. Grubb has, and Ms. DeHart and myself have issues with this. So, and I don't know how the other commissioners are, so we'll find out. So that's good. Okay. Now moving on to the plan development agreement.
Sure. Mr. Anderson, would you like me to go over my letter?
Yes, sir.
All right, in your packet, you got an April 28th letter from DLZ regarding, it's our third review of the plan development agreement for the Lake Point apartment development. Our just kind of running through the review here under general comments. Generally, we defer to the township attorney regarding language. That's pretty typical. So we look more at content and engineering type items. We already talked about the community impact statement. We just deferred to the township on that under item number 2. I'm going to skip down to item number 10 on the letter, where we had mentioned, actually rescinded that comment, but it was in regards to protecting surface drainage. The applicant correctly pointed out that it's a development under one owner. There's not individual owners that are going to be making changes to the property, so it didn't seem appropriate to keep that comment in there. Item number 11 is we had mentioned the joint maintenance agreement on the stormwater system, recommending a joint maintenance agreement between Lake Point and West Valley, just to firmly document shared responsibilities of stormwater systems, so that it's very clear who's responsible for what, and that the West Valley storm system is critical to the continued function and success of the Lake Point development. So I had brought that up. The rest of our comments were addressed regarding the easements that were presented in the document, and all of those were addressed. So in conclusion, we recommended approval of the PDA, subject to concurrence that the community impact statement was not required, and and a joint maintenance agreement between the two developments regarding the stormwater system. So happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions with regard to this? Golly, a lot of silence tonight. You did a good job. That's what.
I guess. Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill, any comments?
Well, there are a couple things that I just wanted to touch on. So one in the McKenna letter is just that they need to kind of be more specific with the development schedule, is a comment that was made, and it didn't include the list of items that's set forth in the ordinance. And they can clean that up. There was a legal comment to that extent as well. There was a legal comment that talked about private road agreement. If this were a condo association, then we'd want a private road agreement, but this is one owner. If in the future they ever decided to put a master deed together and condo these units out, then at that point we would want a private road agreement for this project. So if there were maintenance issues, we could get them addressed. Lisa's legal review also touches on the development agreement or I should say the community impact statement, and making a finding as to whether or not you feel that is necessary based on the conversation tonight. And then also just some basic content type stuff, recital as to the date the PD agreement was approved, kind of just filling in some blanks there. There was just some wording regarding in her in her item number 6 regarding the reason for contribution for speed bumps, and just kind of getting into a better explanation of the rationale behind it. And then that's really about it. I mean, if the applicant agrees to the conditions of the letter set forth in the letter, or to make those changes, then I think we'll be in good shape with the development agreement. One thing I wanted to mention is that after you saw this project last and it went to the township board, there was some discussion about community benefit. And after that meeting, I had a conversation with Mr. Fenari, at which point he agreed to make a $5,000 contribution to the Parks Fund, Township Park Fund. And that is not in the development agreement that you saw. He and Jason Emerine and I spoke about that earlier this week. And it's something that actually they've already amended it to include it. It just didn't have an opportunity to go back out for a review yet. So that'll happen at a later date. But that was not, that's not something that you were aware of last time you saw it, because it was not something that was being proposed. So that $5,000 will go to the Park Fund. And then I believe it's a $2,050 donation to Sidewalk Fund. I think that was the amount. There's a decimal point in that figure rather than a comma, but I think the point is to say that if I remember correctly, that is a $2,050 contribution to the Sidewalk Fund. So I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that.
Okay, that's good. Any other comments from the commissioners, guys? Okay. Well, considering this is a final site approval, which means as far as what we've done is going to be the whole thing. So speak now, ever for hold your peace.
And just to be clear, you take final action on the final site plan, right, and then you take recommending action on the plan development agreement.
Chairman Anderson, I have a quick comment whenever it's appropriate.
Sure, go ahead.
I just, we have revised the plan development agreement and resubmitted it. It hasn't, like Sean said, it hasn't gone out to get reviewed yet. With regards to all the review comments put forth by the city or the township attorney, I think every single one of those items in her letter has been addressed. We added in the $5,000 that Sean mentioned earlier. And then The schedule comment regarding the development schedule, that is not in there yet. I'm happy to do that. That's not a problem. I'm sure Michael has no problem with that either. If it's okay with the planning commission, we will, address that. If it's okay with you guys, subject to Sean's review and approval, if that's all right with you guys, happy to do that. That's not a big deal whatsoever. So those are kind of the big ticket items there, I think, that Sean and Mike talked about, but I'm here to answer any more questions regarding that if you guys have any.
Thank you, Jason. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, the clubhouse, I mean, it's the development agreement without, if anyone knows, I mean, that's not something that can be put off, right? That's gotta be built and it's gotta be constructed as part of development.
It's part of the site plan, so yes, if we don't do it, then we're in violation of site plan approval. So yes, that's got to be built.
That's it, all I got.
Who do we have that in the background? It's gone. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So just for clarification, Mr. O'Neill, we need to have two actual motions, one for the idea of the final site plan approval, and then one also for a recommendation for the PDA. And they need to be separate and voted on both of them, correct? Separately?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So who would like to address those two things? We can do whoever wants to do the first one, and then we'll go for the second one.
I'll do the PDA.
Okay.
I move that the White Lake Planning Commission recommend to the White Lake Township Board approval of the plan development agreement for the development known as Lake Point, to include the waiver of the community impact study and subject to planning department and consultant comments.
Okay.
Support.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Mr. O'Neill?
I was just going to say, I would maybe throw in the fact that the development agreement will also include that $5,000 contribution to the park fund that wasn't in this draft that you saw tonight, just so it's clear.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Did we have support?
Support.
Okay. Ms. Grubb has support. Okay. Can we have the motions on the floor for a recommendation to the board? Roll call vote, please.
Steve Anderson.
Yes.
Peter Maher.
Yes.
Yes. Matt Slicker.
Yes.
Mark Fine.
Yes.
Joe Seward.
Yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yes.
Debbie DeHart.
Yes.
Rhonda Grubb. Yes.
Okay. So we got that as far as the recommendation. Now we have to go ahead and move for the motion for approval of the final site plan.
Would you like me to do that?
It's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm not going to do
All
it.
All right, I move that the White Lake Township Planning Commission approve of the final site plan for the development known as Lake Point, subject to planning department and consultant comments. And I'm not sure if there's any more additions in there, Sean.
I just usually say all staff and consultant comments just to give it a good drag.
Subject to all staff and consultant comments.
Support.
Okay, we got a motion for a final site approval for that. Mr. Fine has supported it and seconded it. Roll call vote.
Steve Anderson.
Yes.
Peter Maher.
Yes.
Matt Slicker.
Yes.
Mark Fine.
Yes.
Debbie DeHart.
Yes.
Scott Ruggles.
Yes.
Rhonda Grubb, yes.
Okay. So gentlemen, thank you for your time as far as for that. And let's have a good project.
Thank you all very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And special thank you to Sean and Mike Lofkin. They've been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. You guys don't have to hang around. You can go have dinner.
Have a good night.
Okay. Okay, let's look and let me go to my agenda here. Oh, where is my agenda here? That's not it. Sorry, guys. I had my screen. There it is. There's my agenda. Okay. So, do we have any new business?
No, sir.
Okay, let's go to the liaison reports. Who would like to go first? Mr. Ruggles, would you like to go first?
Sure, I can.
Okay.
Unless Rhonda wants to.
Knock it out.
Okay. Township Board has met twice since the Planning Commission last met. And we have a meeting coming up May 11th. Actually, be the first time we're going to meet in person. So we're going to meet in the Township Annex Room. So that'll be nice. The last meeting, the Township Board voted unanimously to approve the recommendation from the community, is it the Civic Center Development Committee, to approve River Caddis as our developer. So we're now entered into what I think we're calling a partnership to work together to try to guide our vision for what we want. So it's River Caddis that's been selected. So for everybody on here that put in a bunch of time, thanks for the hard work. And even though I had some disagreements with, I might have liked the other companies in some aspects, I think River Caddis was the best. And I'm definitely going to respect the committee's decision when they put in so much time. So I appreciate everybody's efforts. At our township board meeting, we did there wasn't a lot on the agenda. We did some house cleaning. So we saw the rezoning request that the Planning Commission saw at 7775 Highland Road. That was approved. The waiver for the property at the corner of Elizabeth Lake Road and 59, that was approved. We did a first reading on the fee ordinance 129, basically just some updated pricing at the township level. And we entered into a contract with our new fire chief, John Holland. So hopefully he sticks around for a while. I'm sure many of you, everybody is aware that John Holland's now our fire chief. And Rich has moved on. Supervisor Kowal read a resolution declaring May Mental Health Awareness Month here in White Lake Township. And as we have been doing, the Township Board approved a transfer of $790,000 to our OPEB fund, which basically is for retiree healthcare. So that's been something we've been knocking at now for, I think, the last 6 years. We've been allocating money to that. So that was our annual contribution. If anybody has any questions, I can answer them.
Did you say the meeting was on the 11th? I thought it was the 18th. What was?
Oh, we have one coming up on the 11th.
Oh, have one coming up on the 11th.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The meeting in the annex is on the 18th. Is that?
No. The meeting in the annex is on the 11th, May 11th.
Okay.
So it's this coming week.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Ruggles. I appreciate it.
Yep.
You are up, Ms. Grubb.
We have not had a parks meeting since our last planning commission meeting, but we have one next Wednesday, the 12th, if anybody cares to join us. We're just going to talk about the Stanley Park entrance sign, updates to the picnic tables that we would like to have there as we start to make any changes with the park, and the parking and bylaw amendments. So it should be pretty exciting.
Okay. Oh, one other thing I was going to ask you is I still owe you soccer nets that I've got sitting in my garage. So I noticed they hadn't been put up there. So maybe if I go on public of saying I'm going to get those to you, you'll actually get them.
For me personally, or for the park?
No, for the park.
Okay.
I don't think you need big soccer nets in your home. So
No, I don't.
okay, I'll try to remember to drop those off someplace. You know.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Anybody else have any report? Do we have a ZBA report, Ms. DeHart?
We do. We've met a couple of times. We had a special meeting. Again, the ZBA meetings have run quite long, and even though they're trying to limit how many cases we have on them, we're trying to go through all the standards, the state standards on every case to make sure that each case and application meet the state standards. And it seems to be working very well. Everybody's giving a lot of thought to each case.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, thank you. Your hard work is definitely, we want to acknowledge your hard work because it's not easy. Yeah.
Thanks. But it's tough.
Any additional planning consultant reports, Mr. Michael? Are you fine?
I could give a whole bunch of updates. We're doing a lot. Construction's nearing completion on the Bogey Lake North sanitary sewer SAD project. That involves Pinecrest, Sugden Lake, and Barrel Drive. We're working on some sanitary SAD plans for Hulbert and Oak Ridge Park area. We've got plans for permits on the Aspen Meadows iron filtration plant. That's exciting. We've got plans in for permit on the Bogey Lake water main extension to bring water to the Huron Valley School campus. So a lot going on, but pretty exciting stuff.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a director's report?
Yes, I'll be quick. Last weekend, a couple people went out on Saturday morning to do a final inspection on a couple last things to get a temporary C of O issued for Four Corners. So I believe the first and second floor of the building that's, right on the road there, the Westerly building, have temporary occupancy. I believe he, as of the beginning of this week, had 8 units rented out. So hopefully that picks up. I think usually it's probably slow to start. People maybe are hesitant until others start moving in. So hopefully that really snowballs and he fills those units quickly. So that was good news. He's probably a couple months behind on the Easterly building, but exterior wise, it looks, really pretty good and pretty complete at this point. Preserve at Hidden Lake, I mentioned earlier when we were talking about projects in the vicinity of the one you considered tonight. They were originally approved to have townhouse style homes at the north end of the project, if you remember, and they determined that those were not going to be, I guess, in their best interest to build from a market demand standpoint. So they're actually taking all of those out and they're going to a duplex for that whole north section of the project, which we certainly have no objection to. We think it'll probably sell better for them, and it's highly desirable. I think some of those townhouses, while it seems like a neat idea, many of them are 3 stories, with a garage and kind of the ground level, and then 2 stories above, and it's a lot of stairs, and kind of not a product that's maybe widely embraced, at least not in White Lake. So we think it'll be more successful. It's going to come back to you probably either in 2 weeks or at your first June meeting for amended final site plan review or consideration. And, it's going to be an easy one. I mean, they're reducing units. Nobody comes in and asks to build a dozen less units, but I think that's roughly how many they're losing. From an engineering standpoint, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think a whole lot changes really, at least not with the main. Some of the lead locations change for the connections the buildings will make to the utilities, but it's pretty straightforward. Their development agreement is going to have to be modified slightly as well. exhibits to the development agreement are really the approved final site plan, but there might be a couple of units that don't quite meet the previously established setbacks in certain locations. And I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, but you'll need to weigh in on that. So that'll hopefully be in 2 weeks. If not, then that first June meeting. The corner, Scott mentioned his report that the township board granted that PD acreage waiver for Elizabeth and 59. You guys remember back to, I think it was a March meeting. You guys were pretty concerned about the fact that that product or that project as proposed, at least in that conceptual that went along with their waiver, it wasn't fully compatible with the master plan. It didn't have buildings that had an orientation to Elizabeth Lake Road. And some of your concerns also were related to the Civic Center development project that we have right down the road. It didn't really blend and really mesh with that. You had some other comments. I relayed all those to the township board at your request when they considered the waiver. And while they did approve the waiver, they were pretty clear that they supported the position that you guys took. I will tell you that yesterday, I believe, may have been the day before, a revised set of plans came in the door for that project, and it remained largely the same. So I don't know how that's going to go. I conveyed your concerns to them. They had the ability to watch the meeting on YouTube back later. Whether they did or not, I don't know. And they sat through and attended the township board meeting and heard those same comments again. So I was a little confused as to why nothing really changed, but just being blunt, it's not going to be a successful plan if that's what they want to try to push forward, in my mind, based on the concerns you had that I agree with, and based on the same concerns the township board kind of echoed. So I wanted to let you know that that was kind of disappointing, but we'll see where it goes. Scott mentioned the firm River Caddis, who will be our partner. You know, while most of you haven't been involved in the Civic Center development down the street from the area I just talked about next to the library and the township's property, you certainly will be in the coming months as we start to move ahead and, you know, as we start putting conceptual ideas on paper. That's a pretty exciting thing. And while we don't necessarily have to get into it tonight, there will be a time where we spend probably quite a bit of a meeting talking about that more. If anybody individually has any questions from, but that, you know, more along those lines will be, I guess, coming down the pike soon. New Hope, that's a project, the assisted living facility off of Williams Lake Road. They're continuing to make progress. I know they're engineering working on some stormwater, a stormwater issue that they're trying to resolve with the road commission. So I talked to Rumi today. He's just as jubilant as ever, and very excited to get that project to the finish line and get residents moving in. So we're looking forward to that. Centerpoint Plaza, which is next to AutoZone, not too far east of Township Hall, is also nearing completion and looking for tenants too. So quite a bit's going on. You know, a lot of it in the southeast quadrant of the township, but you know, we just hope that a lot of these projects that are under construction can finish and get tenanted out and built out, and the ones that are starting to move through the process can, you know, be completed and built as planned. You know, I think there's everybody I talked to, and I think somebody asked Tom Tomsma today about construction costs. That might have been you, Scott, asking him about construction costs. I mean, everyone's sort of holding their breath a little bit that economically, you know, things may not be looking good here in the second half of this year, but, you know, we'll remain optimistic and cross our fingers, I guess. You know, but in the, I guess, in the jobs that we do, both on this screen and in many of our offices away from the Planning Commission, you know, it's kind of an interesting time right now. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer them. And otherwise, I don't have anything else.
No, I should have mentioned what you said there, Sean, about the plan on the corner. I have to kind of watch what I say, but I think the township board is definitely in agreement. I know that I am. I mean, I don't think I saw anything that was very impressive about it. So hopefully they change what they're up to there. But yeah, I think the township board said exactly what the Planning Commission said.
Well, Scott, we appreciate the the board for being able to take our recommendations, suggestions, and being able to understand our concerns.
Well, you can imagine what Mike Powell would do, you know.
Pardon?
You can imagine what Mike Powell.
We won't go there. Okay. Okay. So thanks, Sean. I really appreciate it. Well, we don't have any other business. The only thing is communications. What do we get for a chance for our May 20th and June 3rd meetings? More than 50%?
I'd say they're both 50-50. I don't know that we'll have them both. We'll have to see what comes in, but that Preserve at Hidden Lake plan is really the next thing coming down the line, and it'll be one of those two meetings. I'm not sure which yet.
Okay, Sean, and I'm not saying that you know this answer, so I'm just asking it. Knowing that the change going from the multi-unit to the duplex, how is that going to, do you know what the cost factor is for leasing those places or whatever else, or you know?
Those units are actually for sale units, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know price point. My hunch is that these ranch duplexes will probably sell, you know, for a higher price than the townhomes would have, and the demand is quite a bit higher, as was represented to me by the developer, and I'd certainly believe it. But yeah, I don't have those figures, but we could certainly ask him when he's here, because I would be interested to know as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, you also clarified, because that was going to be my next thing. Are they going to be, you know, for sale, or they're leasing? But you've already clarified that, so it's good. I know they're doing well with the single family homes, based on the idea of how many they're selling, and looks like, you know, things are moving positive, so that's all good. Okay, well, if the commissioners don't have any other questions, I said this was going to be 2 hours. I'm 6 minutes over, so please give me a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, support, Mr. Fine. Okay, all those in favor? Oh, do we have to do it? I forget. Do we have to do a roll call for adjournment too? I don't think so. Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Raise their hands. Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot for your time. Sorry about the 6 minutes over.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Thank you,
Brian.
everyone.
Okay, Brian.
Have a good night,
Thanks
guys.
a lot.
Thanks.
Did an excellent job as usual. I'll send.
Thanks, guys.
Just send me money, okay? Take care.
Me?
Good night, Steve.
Good night.